Hey guys, welcome back. Today I'm going to show you how to pretty quickly and pretty painlessly uh, model a chess pawn in Fusion 360. So what you see on the screen right now is what it will look like when it's finished. And you can see it's a pretty standard chess pawn. But some of you might have already put your eyes down here on my timeline and been surprised to see that I created all of this with just 3 things in the timeline. So like I said, this is a pretty simple task to do, pretty simple thing to make. And it's because I used a little bit of a secret that I'm going to show you today. Some of you might have seen over here in the left that there's a folder that you might not have seen before called Canvases. If I turn that on, oh, look what we have here. We have a picture. We are basically going to put a picture into Fusion 360 and use that picture to trace out a piece. And you can see I have a pretty good tracing or a pretty good representation of the piece that's in there. So let's just go ahead and get into it without any further ado. I will go ahead and start by closing this. All right. I don't need to save that. So start right here, open up your data panel and create a new project. You can call it chess set, chess piece, pawn, whatever you want. You can see I've already got one in here called chess set. That's what I'm going to be using. All right, and you should have a blank design file over here. If you don't, go ahead and click the plus on the tab over here so that you have a new design that doesn't have anything in it. And from your new design, we're going to place it in that project that you just created. Click the Save button to do that. You can call it whatever. I'll call mine Pawn, P-A-W-N, and you will choose which project to put it in. So I'll choose chess set, and I'll go ahead and click Save. And now you can see that my design file changes its name to Pawn, and it is over here in my chess set project. I'll close my data panel. I don't need that anymore. And let's go ahead and get going with some stuff. Now, we're going to start out actually over here in Canvas. Okay. In Canvas, for this assignment, you can see that we have some instructions. Number 1 says to download this picture. So you'll go ahead and click on that link there. And it brings up this picture right here. What we're going to do is after it's opened, you will have a little option right over here to download it. So this works on the classroom computer, this works on your Chromebook. No matter what you do, it will download it to your device. All right, so I'll go ahead and click download. And I'm going to save mine to my downloads folder. All right, and I will just click save. All right, and then it's all the way downloaded. Now I'm going to go back to Fusion 360 now. Okay, so we're going to start. I'll grab from my view cube, the front facing view. I'll turn on my origin so I can see all of my kind of profiles there. And we're going to start off by putting that picture right here on our kind of one of our planes right here. So that is done up here through Insert. So I'll click on Insert and I will click on Canvas. I want to insert something from my computer, so I'll choose that. Then it'll open up my navigation folder. You should choose your downloads folder. Okay, that's true on the classroom computers, on your Chromebook. If you're like me using a Mac right now, it's hopefully we just saved it to our downloads folder, and it should be this one called Modern Staunton. You'll just click on it and open, and it is going to say, give me this little message here. Where do you want to put that picture? I'm just going to put it on that front facing plane right there which looks like the green and red, the XY plane for me. So I'll click on that plane, and then it brings the picture in. Now, it might start off pretty tiny. We got some things that we can do. So first of all, if you notice my mouse, if I move to that kind of rounded corner of my manipulate tool, that lets me resize things. So I'll click on that, I'll drag it, and you can see it makes it much bigger. Move that out of the way. I can also click on this middle guy, and that lets me move things around. My goal is basically to kind of get my pawn split in half by my green axis right there. Okay, so I'll zoom in a little bit there. That's kind of what I want. And I can tell that it's being split in half because I could use the up and down arrow right here, and the green line will go right through the middle of the pawn. And it looks like it's almost in the middle, but I could probably scoot it over just a little bit more. That's about it. Okay, and I'm going to place the bottom of my piece right here on the origin, or as close as I can, right? And that'll be pretty good right there, all right? I am going to click, when I'm satisfied that half of my pawn is on the left of that vertical axis, and half of my pawn is on the right of that vertical axis, I'm going to go ahead and click OK. Now, we are going to design our pawn to be as close to 5 centimeters tall as we possibly can. So 5 centimeters tall, in Fusion 360 we use millimeters, so 5 centimeters is 50 millimeters. So I can do a really neat thing here. I can calibrate this canvas so that I say, all right, from the top of this pawn's head down here to the origin is going to be 50 millimeters. So what we do is we move over here to our canvas folder, we open it up, and we should see our picture there. I'm going to right click on the picture, and I'm going to choose the Calibrate tool, right? And my Calibrate tool wants me to pick the first point on the canvas. So that very first point that I'm going to choose is going to be the very tippy top of the pawn's head. And the second point I'll choose is right here, just the origin. And right now you can see it thinks that from the top of the pawn's head to the origin is 17 millimeters. Well, we need to change that to 50 millimeters, so I'll just type in 50 there and then hit enter, and then it kind of resizes stuff, and you can see my pawn is no longer on my origin. So what I'm going to do is go back to my canvas folder, right click, and I'm going to choose edit canvas, and that brings back my moving tool. So I'll just move that back. I'm just going to let that green line split the pawn's head. I'll zoom in. Oops, I lost my tool. Okay, and you can see that the green line is on the head. And then after I use the free move tool, that's what the one in the middle is, I'm going to use this up and down one just so I place the bottom of the piece, so we'll go right there, on the origin. Okay, then I'll click OK when I'm done. So now I know that from the origin to the top of my pawn is exactly 50 millimeters or 5 centimeters. And if you play competitive chess at all, that's the size of a competitive chess pawn, is 5 centimeters tall. Okay. We can now get ready to make our chess pawn, and that's super easy. What we're going to do is we're going to click on create a sketch, and we're going to place that sketch right here on the same plane that our picture is on. So I'll click on that plane, and then we're ready to go with a sketch. So the very first thing that I'm going to do here is I'm going to create a line. So I'll just hit L, And I'm going to draw a line from the origin all the way up to the very top of the pond's head. Now, I'm going to make sure that the line that I'm drawing is completely vertical. So I should notice that the degrees are 90 degrees. And I'm going to try to get it as close to the top of the head as I possibly can. And at the bottom of the screen, it still says I'm at 90. I'm going to click. And there you go. I have a line placed in. I'm going to hit escape to get out of my line tool. And there's my vertical constraint. I like seeing that. That should be a completely vertical line. All right, a couple things that I'm going to do now. I'm going to start and I'm going to create a point. And that point I'm going to place kind of where the head or the round piece meets the neck or the collar or whatever you want to call it. So I'll zoom in there, make sure I get that point right in that crease. And again, I created a point, so I went to create and I chose point. And now that places a point on that line. So to make the head part, what I'll do is I'll go up here and I will go to create and I will choose arc. I'll do a 3-point arc and I will choose, this is my beginning, this is my end, and then I'm just going to go out with the third point until I see that it pretty closely follows the picture. And then when I'm satisfied that it's done a good job tracing, I'm going to click. All right. And this is going to be mostly a series of me creating points and connecting and tracing to them. So I'm going to go now and create another point, and I'll create a point right kind of here. So that's going to allow me to draw a line between my arc and that point. And you can see that this collar has a little bit of thickness to it. So you can see, I hope you can see that my blue vertical constraint is turned on. That's good. I want my next point to be directly below the point that I already have. And I will go ahead and click there. And then I am going to draw a point right here. It's kind of where my next thing is going to be. Choose my pan tool. And I'll escape out of my pan tool. My point tool is still open. I want to draw a point, and you can see follow this kind of curve down, and that meets right about there, so I'll choose there. And then it's going to go straight out to about right here. I'm going to make sure that it says this picture's kind of taken at a little bit of an angle, so this should be horizontal, so I'm going to make sure it stays horizontal. I'm going to choose right about there. And then I will choose a vertical point down a little bit, and I'll choose right about there. And then I'll choose this curve. Looks like it'll be all one arc, so I'll just leave that alone. All right, I'll choose my next point right about there. And then I'll choose kind of my last point. I know it's not on the piece, but I want it to meet up with that guy. So I'm going to make sure that my last point is right here on the x-axis, it looks like, right below, and I'll just choose right about there. So basically, I've made a number of points here, and I'm going to play connect to the dot using different things. So if I just look between this point and that arc, that's really straight. So a line is going to do the trick there. So I'll open up with L my line tool, and I'll just draw between these guys. And there we go. I'll connect it right up to that arc. And from here to here, that's another line. So I'll go ahead and just use my line tool again. Okay. Now, one thing I do notice is that the corner that these two lines makes is it's a pretty sharp corner, and there's not really a sharp corner on this chest piece. So what I'll do is I'll go to Fillet, and I will add a fillet between these two lines, and you can choose whatever you want there. 1 millimeter looks pretty good to me. That follows that kind of curve pretty well. Okay, I'll hit enter. And then from here to here, there's a little bit of a curve here, so I'll choose an arc. So I'll go here and I'll choose a 3-point arc, and I'll click on that point, and I will just make my arc kind of, it's not too arcy, just a little bit more than a line, but right there looks pretty good. And again, I've got a sharp corner there, so I'm going to use that Fillet tool. I will select my first line and then my second line, and then I'll just kind of, one's too much, 0.5. Yeah, 0.5 looks like it'll do the trick. And I'll hit enter. All right. And then between this point and this point up here, you can see that is pretty curvy. So I'm going to go with an arc again. I bet that's going to do the trick. My 3-point arc. It's the hero of today. I will choose that point. I'll choose that point, and then I'm just going to find the spot where that looks pretty dang good right there. Okay. And then between here and here is a line, so I'll choose a line tool. It's horizontal. And I'll escape out of that. From here to here is another line. But that's a real sharp corner. I don't like that real sharp corner. So what I'm going to do is go in here, and you guessed it, use my Fillet tool. And we'll just type in 1 and see what that does. Yeah, I think that's about the profile that I want. I'll hit enter. And then between here and here, that looks pretty arcy. So I'll go and use another arc, 3-point arc. I'll start on this point, I'll finish on this point, and this one, that one doesn't play so well. I'm going to hit escape, and what I'm going to do is, let's try our Spline tool. So I'll go here to Spline and a fit point spline. All right, so I'll start my spline here, and then spline just kind of works by, you're just going to kind of follow the path as best you can and end there. And then after I connected to that last piece, I'm going to hit escape. Oh, that's a lie. I should have hit enter. Well, we'll try that again. Here's our spline tool here too. I'll click here, and then I'm just going to kind of click on places along here to give it nice curvature. And okay, so I'll just hit enter this time. Okay, there we go. Now those green points, those are my edit points. So if I wanted to edit like the how much this spline bulges, I would click and drag on those green points. I'm not going to. I really like my spline. And then the black points are actually points on the spline. So I'll click away from that. And then I need to get from here to here. So I bet that's another spline. Let's try the spline tool again there. And I'll just kind of go here. A little bit of curve. A little bit of curve all the way down. And hit enter. Okay, I like that profile. And then from this point to that point is all a straight line, so I'll use line. And this corner can be sharp on the bottom. I'll escape out of that. Now, that's a good sign. If I move my mouse over it, it highlights it as a profile. That means it's all closed and connected. So I'll bet I have two profiles here. I have this profile for the body and then this other profile for the head. So and we should have a line straight down the middle. All right. What we're going to do now is finish sketch. And if you remember, there were only 3 things in my last timeline that I showed you. So we've got 2 things. We've got our canvas, and then we have our sketch. The last thing we're going to do is we're going to revolve out the profile that we just created. So I'll go here, I'll click Revolve, and it wants me to select a profile. So the first profile I'll select is the head, and it says 1 is selected, and then I'll also select the body, so 2 is selected. Now it wants to know what axis do I want to rotate this around. Well, that's that straight up and down line right through the middle, and look at that. It gives me a preview, and that looks pretty spot on to the picture. I'll just make sure it says new body. I'll click OK. And then I'll just kind of inspect. Yeah, this pawn is pretty similar to the pawn that's there. Like I can turn on and off the body, and that is pretty darn close. I like that pawn. So there you can see that's all we have to do. I hope you enjoyed making this, and we can use this to make all the rest of the pieces essentially as well. All right, have a great day. I hope this was helpful.